is presented, and then we'll go into breakout rooms on the specific schools and specific programs, and that way you can talk to those representatives with specific questions for them. And then we'll ask everybody to participate in an exit survey before they leave tonight. So let's go ahead and get started. On the first slide, we're talking about what's required for graduation. And really, we always talk about the 2 C's. It's specific classes and specific credits that students need to graduate. Now, before we get started in this process, I'd like to talk about just thinking about your kiddos, where they're at right now, and what would be the best fit for them. Moving forward in this presentation, looking at what their passions are, maybe also what their strengths and differences are, and let that help guide you through this evening. Okay. So the specific classes that students have to take and pass are required for graduation, and we're going to review those specific classes. A few years ago, we changed the graduation requirements, and we'll review that in just a moment. So the classes are very specific, and if a student fails a class, they will have to retake that class and pass it with a D grade or better. Now, D grades, I think we can all agree, are not good grades. It doesn't reflect that the student understands fully the information, and it doesn't necessarily help that student to move on into the next level of a class. But it is a passing grade. Also, if a student fails a class, they will have to retake that class. And that can be in the summer if they offer summer school. They also have recovery classes at the site that students can take online. So there's a couple different ways that a student can retake a class that they failed, but we always want to focus on doing well when we have that opportunity in school. And if the student does not retake that specific class, then they will not graduate. They have to take that class. There's more information that we'll go over regarding this as we move on in the presentation. Now, these are the graduation requirements that I was just talking about. These are specific classes that the students have to take and pass with a D grade or higher. There are 40 credits of English, and that's 10 credits per year. So the freshman year, they have to take 10 credits. Sophomore year, they have to take 10 credits. Junior year, they have to take 10 credits. And then senior year, they'll have to take 10 credits, totaling 40. Social science, that's just a fancy word for history. So, and the students typically start their history classes in their sophomore year. And that's going to be world history their sophomore year. And junior year, they will take US history. And they also will be taking American government and economics their senior year, or sometimes they can take it their junior year too, depending on the school site. And math is 30 credits. That's going to be integrated math 1, integrated math 2, and integrated math 3. In saying that, if a student is currently in 8th grade and taking integrated math 1, and they're earning A's and B's, and they're showing on the state, or on iReady or some of the state exams, that they're showing that they are able to continue on in the math program, then they would start their freshman year in Integrated Math 1, and then move on to Integrated Math 3, and then they could continue on with pre-calculus or another higher level math. Science, they just changed this recently, where the first year, your freshman year, you would be taking physics, and depending on the high school site, you could take next biology or chemistry, and then the following third year, it would be, again, either biology or chemistry. And there's other classes that students can take. These are just the minimum graduation requirements. With PE and health, that's 25 credits, 2 years of PE, and generally speaking, it starts your freshman year and moves on to your sophomore year. Once you're done with your 2 PE classes, then you're done with PE. However, some students really like PE, and most high schools do offer additional PE classes that the students can take. Health is just a 1 semester class, and that's usually paired up with an economics, which is a 1 semester. American government is a 1 semester as well. World language is another word for a foreign language class. Some high schools have ASL, American Sign Language, French, Spanish, and those are 2 years of a world language. Now, some students have asked in the past, can they take French and Spanish? And they really need to take the same language consecutively. That means that they would have to take it one right after the other. So if they were taking Spanish, they would take Spanish 1 and Spanish 2. Also, in regards to world language, if a student really struggles in one language and they started with French 1, they can switch, but then they would have to finish with the class or the foreign language that they chose. So if French 1 didn't work and they chose Spanish, then they would have to take Spanish 1 and Spanish 2. That the last requirement, it says VAPA. That's just a visual and performing arts or a career technical education class, and it's 10 credits. So a visual and performing arts class could look like drama, concert band. It can also look at drawing, painting, ceramics. Some classes could be photography. And career technical education, we're going to go into that even more, but it allows students to explore different careers, earn a certificate and credits, and that's where they would earn the 10 credits. All right, types of classes. There are 3 different types of classes that students would be taking. It's a grade level class, so a freshman level English class, or a student could opt to take an honors level English freshman class. Advanced placement is a college level class that helps students prepare for college. You can earn college credits by passing the AP exam, and that's usually in the spring, and it can help qualify students for advanced classes in college as they continue on. And honors is a little bit more academically challenging. And so in your freshman year, you can usually choose classes at a grade level or honors. And then when you move on to the higher levels, your sophomore year, junior year, and senior year, that's when it starts to open up to those AP, those advanced placement classes as well. Now, as you look at the grade point value system, this is where we're looking at a grade point average. The standard grading scale, you can see to the left, it shows an A is equivalent to a 4, a B is equivalent to a 3, C is equivalent to a 2, and a D is equivalent to a 1. Now, the weighted grade point average for an honors as well as an AP is just one number higher. And that's when we hear students saying, oh, this person has a 4.3 grade point average. That's because that student is working on some honors or college level classes in high school. And this is just showing how to calculate a grade point average. This is a block school example. Block school similar to Del Campo. They have 4 classes per block. And if a student had earned an A in English, a C in math, a B in science, and a B in history, one would add all of those up. And you can see in the example, the 4 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 would be 12. And then you divide that by the number of classes that the student has, which is 4. And that would give a grade point average of a 3.0. Now, on this slide, I really like to talk about students completing their work and handing it in versus students that may not have completed all of their work, but chose not to hand it in. And here's an example of 2 students that have the same exact classes, and they're doing all of the same assignments. And the student on the left did not complete assignment 3 and assignment 5, earning them a 0%. Now the student on the right, they both earned Fs, but the student on the right handed in their assignment and got 50% on assignment 3 and assignment 4. And the overall grade is a C for the student that handed it in. And the overall grade for the student on the left is an F of 50%, and it's because they did not hand it in. So we always want to encourage our students to complete their work and hand it in so they are earning those passing grades. Now, this is an example of a 4-year plan. Know that in 8th grade, all of the counselors are sitting down with our 8th grade students in January and beyond to create a 4-year plan in Naviance. And we'll talk about Naviance a little bit further into our presentation. But we're going to create a 4-year plan for all of our 8th graders moving forward. And they're going to choose their English classes and their math and history and science. And what's wonderful about Naviance is once they create that and the high schools know where our students are going, our high schools will be able to access this information. And the student can continue to build their 4-year plan as they move forward in high school too. So sometimes it changes. They might decide to take some higher level classes, and they might, in their 8th grade year, they might be a little bit more conservative in their decisions. And then in high school, they might want to change that. And it could go the other way around too. So in Naviance, this is the program that I was talking about where we will create a 4-year plan in Naviance, and they will choose, each student, each 8th grader will choose which high school they're going to. Sometimes students are not quite sure at this time, and so they can create 2 or more 4-year plans. If they're interested in maybe Bella Vista and Del Campo, but their resident school might be San Juan, they can create 3 different plans in Naviance. So we'll be going over that in January.
Yeah, And just to piggyback off that, the nice thing with Naviance, it's a tool that the district is using for all of our students starting in 6th grade, and it really helps them be college and career ready. And so it helps them just plan for their future. And so as Ms. Allenbaugh was saying, this will allow our 8th grade students to plan and develop their 4-year high school plans so that their high school counselors can really work with them to meet those graduation requirements. And we're also going to move on and talk about what those specific credits are. And so students need to have a specific number of credits in order to graduate. So as Ms. Allenbaugh was talking about the A through G graduation requirements, you heard her talk about we have 40 credits in English. So it's 10 credits of English per year. And so in order for students to meet the minimum graduation requirement, they need to have a set number of credits. And so for a traditional school schedule, that would be 220 credits to graduate. And for a block schedule, that would be 280 credits to graduate. And as was mentioned, if students don't have those minimum credits completed, they will be considered credit deficient and will not be able to graduate on time without making those credits up. And so on the next slide, we'll actually talk about the difference between a traditional and a block schedule and which schools offer a traditional and block.
So, oh, go ahead.
So I'll talk about the block schedule. So in a block schedule, you take 4 classes each day, and between August and December, you're in one block, and you complete those classes in between August and December. So in that first half of the school year, you can earn up to 40 credits if you pass all your classes. And then in January, you start all new classes, and that goes till the end of the school year in June. And so you have the opportunity to earn 40 additional credits. Our classes are longer. At Del Campo, we actually have a support period for each class each day. Each class meets once a week for additional support. So our classes are 80 minutes long. We have that 25-minute support class that we call decal. So one of the reasons we have increased graduation requirements are that we have the possibility of earning 80 credits a year and a traditional 6 classes a day schedule, which I think probably most of us went to when we were in high school. We only earned 60 units per class. So there are advantages to each system. I think we're going to talk a little more about what classes are offered. I would say that's the biggest advantage, is that we offer just a really huge variety of classes, and kids have the opportunity to take a lot more electives. So that's the block schedule. I think our friend from San Juan is going to talk about a more traditional schedule, if I'm right.
Yes, that's me. So at San Juan, we offer a 7-period day. So students go through the same classes the first semester and the second semester. The credits are the same, they add up. The value of the classes are still 5 credits each, but they total to different amounts, like what Ms. Poirier was saying. So at San Juan, since there's 7 classes, students earn 35 credits in the first semester. If they were to pass all the classes, 35 in the second semester gives you a total of 70 for the school year. So with us, instead of 280, we require 220 credits for that reason, because each year students don't earn as many credits compared to a block school. There's a spring and fall semester. Each class is about 55 minutes long. I can speak for the reason why we are a 7-period day is because we offer a pathways, and with what we offer in our pathways, that fits better with our schedule. But that is, compared to a block school, that's what a traditional schedule looks like.
And if you're just curious who offers which schedule, Currently, our block schools are Del Campo, Mesa Verde, Casa Roble, and El Camino just switched to block this year.
Mm.
Our 2 7-period-a-day schools are Encina and San Juan. So that leaves Bella Vista and Rio Americano and Mira Loma as our 3 traditional 6-period-a-day classes. I think there's some questions in the chat about whether or not all the schools are moving to block. Each high school site has to vote on that. So I know with the increased graduation requirements, there's some interest from people to move to block, but I couldn't speak to what will happen for next year. What I just told you is what's happening this year at each high school, which schedule each school has this year. Oh, question to repeat the schools. The 4 block schools are Del Campo, Casa Roble, Mesa Verde, and El Camino. The 2 7-period-a-day schools are Encina and San Juan. And the 3 6-period classes are Mira Loma, Rio Americano, and Bella Vista. That's what's happening this year.
So moving on to the next slide, we'll go ahead and go over just a little bit more detail of the traditional schedule. And then on the following slide, it will show the block schedule.
All right, awesome. Okay, so this is an overview of what the 7 classes typical freshmen take at San Juan. So we see there that English, they start off in math. We did offer a honors English class this year. So that's, we're piloting that class this year. I believe we're gonna bring it back next year, but there will be an honors version of English if students elect to take that class. Math, typically freshmen start off in IM1. I'm gonna circle back to math to kind of go over some special situations where students can start in IM2. But just to continue down this list, again, first year class, PE is requirement. So they take their first year of PE, their freshman year. The freshman academy class, so that is an elective class. That covers an introduction to our pathways that we offer at San Juan. I know that we're gonna go over what the CTE pathways are later on in this presentation, but just to give a little bit of information on what that freshman academy class is, like what I mentioned, it's an intro to those pathways. So the pathways that we offer at San Juan are construction, automotive, digital media, and culinary arts. So what that freshman academy class is, students get a preview, a taste of what each pathway offers. They cycle through and spend about 6 to 8 weeks in each pathway. And they do that throughout the school year. And when around May, they get to actually interview for which pathway they like them best. And then they'll start off in that pathway, they're beginning their sophomore year, and they'll stay in it up until their senior. Okay, so that's what that freshman academy class is. The science class that students typically start off in is physics. And world language is another requirement that Ms. Allenbaugh had mentioned earlier is going to be tied into the high school graduation. So we try and encourage students to take world language their first year. And then their 7th period is an elective. So that ranges. It really depends on what the student likes. At San Juan, we offer band-related classes. We have choir, concert band, beginning piano, beginning guitar, and I believe we're going to try and bring back an art class. But that's, as far as electives go, that's what we offer. And we can see that what they take in the beginning of the semester, they also stay in throughout the full year. So they take the same courses in semester 2. So starting in spring, they'll still stay in English, math, PE. They'll continue to cycle through that freshman academy pathways, physics, their 2nd semester of world language, and their elective as well. Now, I mentioned that I would circle back to math. So I see that some families were asking, what if students complete IM1 in 8th grade, what happens? So math can be, can be recommended for students starting their freshman year to begin an IM2 by their 8th grade math teacher. Now, what that means is there are 3 years left of math, but they're starting off in IM1. I'm sorry, they're starting off in IM2 their freshman year. Those 2 remaining years of a math will roll over to electives because the slide earlier that Miss Allenbaugh had gone over requires 3 years of a math. So if they start off in IM2, they'll earn 10 credits of math towards their 30 credits. And then those last 2 years of a math, they can continue to take a math class like IM3 and then pre-calculus. But just for parents who are curious, we do have some students that start off in IM2 beginning their freshman year. And those are, that's like a special situation that happens, but it does occur.
And I just want to address that piece too. There are some students, depending on the school site that they're at, they might actually complete IM2, Integrated Math 2, their 8th grade year. And if the teacher gives that recommendation that they continue on, then they would continue on to IM3 their freshman year too. So the same thing would apply.
Correct, yes.
So moving on to the next slide, we can take a look at a block schedule and what would that look like?
So I think the important thing to note here is come January, when that green column starts, all the classes roll over because students, because they're taking less classes each day, are completing a whole 10 units in what, at least for me, in my traditional 6-period college or high school experience, felt like was a semester. At Del Campo, we start with physics also as a freshman, and then often we will have students, we typically have students take health their freshman year. Health can be backed up by geography, which would be a social studies elective, getting that extra 5 credits for social studies. Or we also offer a class called Expository Reading and Writing, which really addresses that informational text research strand of the language arts standards and supports students to be successful in, and researching in the rest of their classes and the rest of their high school career. Students always take English 1 or the block. Typically they take IM1 their freshman year, but they can take IM2. And conceivably even IM3. I don't think we have any students who are freshmen doing that right now. Students do have to take PE their freshman year, so that is one block or the other. But it does leave a lot of opportunity. Our students are often taking an elective each term. They can take one of our 5 CTE pathways. So we have Fire Academy, we have construction, we have digital media, we have a computer program, and we have an entrepreneurship program. Typically our entrepreneurship program is for upperclassmen, so we don't generally see freshmen in that particular CTE pathway. We also have a robust Air Force ROTC program at Del Campo, so students are able to take that each block all 4 years and still get their graduation requirements. They can start our world language as a freshman, are often students start taking it as sophomores. We offer French, Spanish, and American Sign Language. We have many also, in addition to VAPA electives, we have academic electives. We have freshmen taking creative writing or children's literature, or, there's just a lot of different courses that they are able to take. For students, we talked a bit about students who are accelerated in math. For students who struggle a little bit in math, that is the one course that they could take from August all the way through the end of June, or to the last day of school in June. So they would it's basically blended. They have the same teacher all year long, but one term, which is the equivalent of what we would think of as a quarter, they're taking math support, and then they're taking IM1, and then the first term in January, they're taking math support, and then they're taking IM1. So in the year, they get 20 units of math. 10 of them are elective units, and 10 of them are their IM1 units. So that's a support we provide for students. We're also, because we are able to provide extra classes, we are also able to provide a reading support class for students who are maybe a little bit behind in their reading and maybe need a little extra support in developing their reading skills, but tackle the rest of their coursework. So that's what we would see typically in a freshman year. And then that, kind of the structure of the block continues throughout all 4 years. I'm seeing a question, so I'll just respond to it. ROTC is, it's associated with, I don't actually know what the letters stand for. That's kind of crazy, but it's associated with the military. It's a program that's been around for a lot of years. It is, we have retired military officers who are also credentialed teachers who teach it. It is not a prerequisite to the military. It's not like if you're in ROTC, there's any requirement that you enlist later on, but it is a leadership academy that's very blended. They do a lot of community service. They do drill. If you ever go to a board meeting and you're watching the colors being brought in, those would be students from either Del Campo or Casa Roble's ROTC program. So.
And we do have another high school that does have ROTC as well, and that's Casa. So Del Campo and Casa Roble both have ROTC.
Yes.
And what's great about the program is it helps students to get to know a great cohort of people, and it also helps them throughout all 4 years of their high school. And it's similar to AVID in the sense that it helps them to learn to organize their time, stay on task with their high school assignments and classes, and it helps them through the 4 years of high school.
AVID is advancement via individual determination. It is an international program. Many of our schools have it. Del Campo has it. San Juan has it. So it's a program that takes students through all 4 years. Students, the idea is that students who might not traditionally be on a college pathway for various reasons would go through this coursework. It can be very academic. The students are doing a lot of reading and writing in that class. They also do something called tutorials where they, it's not like getting tutoring where somebody's teaching you content, but they explore questions they have about the content in a group. They do binder checks, they do organization checks, grade checks, they go on college tours. And it's really designed to take a student who might not otherwise be on a college pathway and get them prepared to go on to college. Mira Loma does not offer ROTC. ROTC is just at Del Campo and Casa Roble.
Okay. And going on to the next slide, we will talk about, this is a nice segue because everybody has some wonderful questions regarding the different programs that different high schools have. And this is a link, and know that we're recording this and we will post this information so you will be able to access it. This link will show you all of the different high schools and the different programs that they have available at the specific schools. So if we're taking a look at Del Campo, you can see on the left that it says school size, and it shows you that it's a block school. that there's 1,800 students, and that there's 4 high school counselors at Del Campo. And the schedule is 4 periods, and there's 4 terms. And the requirements for graduation at Del Campo, you can see on the left, it says credits, it's 280. And then in Del Campo with the academic acceleration, there's 14 AP advanced placement college level classes that are available to the high school students. And then there's also 11 honors classes at Del Campo. And then the specialized programs that they have at Del Campo are the AVID that we just talked about, the ROTC that we just talked about, and Ms. Poirier was talking about one of the pathways there, the entrepreneurship pathway. That's the Kids Helping Kids program, and it allows kiddos to learn about business and helping others. And then with Del Campo, with the career pathways, again, that's the CTE pathways that allow students to explore a specific career. They have at Del Campo the computer technology, fire tech, and the media, and the DC Daily News. And you'll be able to see all of the different programs that the different high schools have through this link. Thank you, Luis.
That slide, by the way, is slightly outdated because El Camino just moved to a block. And so if you have specific questions, I would encourage about a site, I would encourage you to contact the site.
And keep in mind that that's a screenshot of the collaborative of the different high schools, but the actual high school collaborative is up to date. We updated it. Mr. Evans, would you like to speak to Meraki High School?
Sure. Again, my name is Scott Evans. I'm a counselor advisor at Meraki High School. I was a counselor and teacher for about 15 years at Del Campo and Loma. Meraki is the newest high school in the district. We just opened 5 years ago, and we're located in the old Fair Oaks Elementary School in Fair Oak Village, just under 100 students, very small size, which is great for students forming relationships with the entire staff and all their classmates, because we're so small, people really get to know each other. Meraki is really for self-directed learners, students who are interested in the learning process and motivated to explore specific content areas where they can really dive deep into it. We encourage internships where students are getting out into the community for real-world learning. We don't offer advanced classes, but about 1/3 of our students take community college classes while they're in high school. So that is our replacement for AP classes. Our kids are actually taking college classes. Again, about 1/3 of our kids do that each semester. So many will go into college after graduation with close to a year of college credits already earned. We do end up, we work off competencies, but in the end, our students have traditional transcripts with grades, especially if they need to transfer or in preparation for college. We are completely A to G qualified, so students are eligible and ready and prepared to head off to college. I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Michelle Bebo, one of our other advisors and English teacher, to finish it off.
So a typical day for, thank you, Scott, by the way. A typical day for a freshman at Meraki would include a morning advisory session, which is much like homeroom. Currently, it's a 16:1 student to teacher ratio, and that advisor is assigned to your student for all 4 years. So it's intended to build a strong partnership for your students' personalized learning. After advisory, it's much like a college environment, as the students have a calendar of courses or sessions or crash courses that they're attending. That might look something like they may go to math lab, and then they may go to a choice PE session. They may have a book club or a writer's workshop later on that day. They may be engaging in engineering or experimental design, and then they may be working on their own personal projects. On other days, they may join our rock band. They may be off campus doing community service. engaging in financial literacy sessions. We do have student government, very active student government, so they may be involved in something, and or they may be busy in our makerspace. It is full service makerspace where we can weld and 3D print and laser cut and make jewelry and do all kinds of woodworking. So there's a lot of options, but like I said, it's much like a college environment. We don't have bells, we don't have specific classes. Students are self-managing and directing their day as needed, but also in very close partnership with their advisor. We do have a Cte pathway. It's arts, media, and entertainment. Ours operates like a professional production company. So we are deep diving into film, sound, lighting, script writing, and photography. We also do some music production, as I mentioned earlier. If you're interested in how that looks all together, you can check out our Daggers video on our San Juan Meraki website. So you can kind of see the rock band together, all the lighting and sound, and our AME crew at work. So we have about 15 students in AME, and we are currently looking into growing our production company and moving out into the community. And then finally, we really highlight student projects. So students investigate and then create their own personal projects, and that may range from video game design to go-kart reparation. Shoot, Scott, we did chicken. We incubated chicken eggs. Really, the list is endless. If your student is interested and wants to pursue it, we're right there to help make it happen. Again, it's a small environment. It's kind of family oriented, if you will. We have a very strong parent volunteer group, and we are definitely interested in students who want to partner up in their education. Thank you.
Thank you both, Mr. Evans and Ms. Bebo. Thank you for letting us know about Meraki. It's a great opportunity for those students that would be a good fit for it. So moving on to the next slide, we'd like to talk about the different electives that are possible at the different schools. This is just a sampling of possible high school electives at the different schools. You'll see some of the things that we've already talked about, the AVID, CTE, ROTC. There are other electives available. Del Campo High School, Ms. Poirier, would you like to speak to some of the electives that are available at Del Campo?
So I think one of the things, when I look at this, we have a lot of the things listed here. We don't have photography, but I think one of the things that is also really exciting, we don't have foods, for example, but there's a lot of also academic electives that are not listed here. We have game strategies, we have personal finance, we have the CTE programs we've all referenced, but we have like a children's literature program, our class, we have a digital media and a yearbook. Our students could take forensic science or physical anthropology. So in addition to all of kind of what we traditionally think of as an elective because it's a VAPA, students really have the opportunity to pursue a lot of academic interests beyond the traditional graduation requirements. So that's pretty exciting. Each school can show you what they offer. So just because something's offered each year doesn't mean you have to get the students to sign up for it. But each school can, like, if you reach out to each school that you might be interested, they could give you the full range of what they offer. So that's one of the things that excited me about, I actually just moved to Del Campo from Encina this year, but just really the depth of academic options too. We have a student who will be graduating this December, and he actually is a native Italian speaker, so he has that language. but he's gone through Spanish and French 3 and finished all of his A through G requirements. And so the student really will know 4 languages upon graduation. I think that's pretty cool that kids have the opportunity to really explore their interests in high school. That's not, I mean, that's not what I recall from my high school experience a whole lot. Like it felt like there was one elective each year. So, so I think that's, you know, that's pretty cool.
Thank you, Ms. Poirier. Mr. Kikau, would you like to talk about some San Juan High School electives?
Yeah, so I had mentioned earlier when we were talking about that, what a typical freshman schedule looks like at San Juan. That freshman academy class offers them an opportunity to go through what we kind of see on here. So they'd go through like a construction for 6 weeks. They'd go through automotive, foods, culinary, and then they'd go through the media class. I know in auto and in the construction, the wood shop class, their first year, they're really learning safety protocols on handling the tools and really getting that down, because it's important that when they're working in the workshop and building things, that they know their way around these big machines that they have to use. So I know that that's really emphasized when they're in their first year in that freshman academy class as they cycle through construction and auto. Some of the things that they do in the media class is really just starting off with the basics of how to build a website, how to, what a good photo looks like versus what, a low quality photo looks like. And then they, go on from there and then eventually work their way up to working with cameras, working with a drone, learning how to fly a drone and take videos and edit videos that way, and post it on YouTube or wherever they would like to, have their projects at. But I know that that's some things that they learn in media. In foods, we really, kind of on the same line as auto and construction, really learning the safety protocols of working in the kitchen. And so they also learn, since they will be working in the catering business, they talk about and introduce the food handler's card, which is something a lot of students would need if they're interested in earning a part-time job in high school, working at some restaurant or a fast food place. So those are some of the things that are covered in that in the culinary class. And the cool thing with these electives is they get to have a separate experience from just being in a class, sitting down and learning. They get to learn with their hands and kind of interact and do work apart from just reading off of a book or being assigned homework that requires them to sit down and learn from a book. They're actually learning with their hands, and it's all a hands-on experience. So that's what's kind of neat about that freshman academy class. Yeah, and we also offer Avid. Like I had mentioned earlier, we also offered a lot of band-related classes like beginning piano, concert band, beginning guitar. So yeah, those are some of the things that we offer here over at San Juan.
Thank you, Mr. Kikau. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cacao and Ms. Poirier, for the information about your respective school. So we've actually reached the halfway point of our presentation. Lots of great information is being shared. I love all the information that families are learning, and I love all the great engagement that I'm seeing in our chat. We're actually going to take a pause and do a 5-minute break. All right, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you took advantage of that 5-minute break and got a snack or something to drink, or use that time to just stand up and stretch. We're going to resume the second half of our workshop tonight. I'm going to go ahead and share the presentation back on our screen, and we'll continue with lots of great info for you. Okay, So this should be where we left off. All right, and I'll hand this back over to our speakers.
Hi, everyone. I'm Martine Cermak, and I do believe that this is the area that I'm starting off with, or maybe Victoria is going to introduce this. I don't know. Did I cut you off, Victoria?
No, not at all. Not at all. I was just ready, just in case. But it's all you. I'll let you have it.
Okay, so career technical education used to be called ROP. So now we just refer to it as CTE. So we can go ahead and hit the next slide. I don't know if I have the powers. Do I have the powers? Thank you. So in California, career technical CTE essentially recognizes 15 industry sectors. So this graphic shows that San Juan Unified has 11 sectors represented. So that's pretty awesome. And it shows which schools have those pathways. Most of the pathways are designed with 3 specific courses that build upon one another. So there's usually an introduction course, a concentrator course, and then a culminating course, which they call a capstone, which some pathways, involve maybe an internship or an externship. Some of the pathways are site specific and can only be taken by students who go to that specific school site. And then there are other pathways that are called or referred to as open to all. And a lot of times we'll have students that maybe travel from one high school, maybe they attend Bella Vista, but they're really interested in construction. So their senior year, they go over to San Juan and they participate in their construction program. So kind of just knowing, as you're working towards, if your student is like really interested in, say, engineering, then, maybe you would look at a school site that offers that, like Bella Vista. All the students who participate and complete a pathway get a certificate of completion and a corresponding skill sheet that they can use for resumes, which is an advantage to them. And some of the pathways have specific certifications. So like Manasa talked about the Serve Safe food for culinary certification, but there's also public safety and fire, both have the certified CPR. And then our medical assisting programs, they actually become certified medical assistants if they pass the exam. So the next slide would be awesome. And then this breaks down which programs are at each individual site. So we have the 10 schools represented and some examples of pathways that are open to all seniors in the district, no matter where they attend, would be like dental at Encina, or construction at San Juan, or automotive at San Juan. But there are specific pathways where a student really needs to be enrolled in that school to participate. And examples of that would be engineering at Bella Vista or the Business Academy at Mesa. I believe someone brought up the Kids Helping Kids at Del Campo. And so these are things you would consider when you're doing open enrollment for your students, which will be talked about a little bit later. But I'll go ahead and hand it over to Corinne and Manasa to discuss a little bit further what they offer on their specific sites. I don't know which one of you wants to go first.
Yeah, I can go. We have, again, like I mentioned earlier, we have automotive. Students are starting to learn working on engines. Their first year, starting off with small engines first, like an engine of a lawnmower, and then eventually working their way up to a typical car engine. Media, which is that broadcasting and video production. I know that a lot of seniors are working on having a news run channel. sorry, that's my dog, having a news run channel for San Juan. And they're posting about and having a news station kind of run and talk about events that are happening in the school, sports events, things like that. And like I also said, by the time that they're a senior, they get to learn how to fly a drone, do video editing on a drone, and that's kind of a cool thing that we advertise to kids who are in or are interested in media. That construction pathway, again, learning how to use the tools and the safety protocols that come with using big machines to cut and saw and glue things together. But there's a computer aspect to it where kids can learn how to like kind of have a 3D model of what they want to build before going in, and they can like design their project on a computer before going in the workshop and actually building it. And then that culinary pathway, we do not have bakery anymore. I'm not sure if that's going to come back, but we do have culinary, and it's its own separate building. It has a full-on restaurant style kitchen where students learn how to make food, cater food, serve food to customers, things like that. So that's what we offer at San Juan. And like what was mentioned earlier, some students come from different, when they're a senior, come from different school sites to complete their pathway here at San Juan with us. That's something that we work out together with their schedule. But that is an option if, say, for example, a student is at Mariloma and really wants to be in the auto class. They can't have that option. Even I know that is a far drive, but just throwing out an example, students can come over to San Juan their junior and senior year to complete a pathway if it's not offered at their school site.
Thank you, Mr. Kikau. Ms. Poirier, would you like to talk to Del Campo's offerings of the CTE? I think we might have some technical issues going on with Ms. Poirier. Hopefully we can get that resolved. With Del Campo, they have the broadcasting and video production. The business entrepreneurship is the Kids Helping Kids CTE program, construction technology, the fire technician, emergency medical response, as well as the web authoring. And those are individualized programs. Each program would, there's a certain classes that they would be taking to earn that certificate and to allow them to work in that specific field. Okay. So if we move on to the next slide. Getting connected in high school, it's so important, especially nowadays with all of us having to quarantine. We really want to encourage our students to feel connected in their school site. And one of the ways that we can do that is, again, referring back to what we were talking about when we first started this presentation, is looking at our students' strengths and differences, looking at their passions, and really encouraging them to try something new, to follow their passions. And that could be sports. That could be, if our eighth grader is participating in student government in eighth grade, and maybe they want to continue, to really encourage them to do that. Trying out the different electives to kind of explore and finding new passions in high school. And that can lead to a career. Link Crew, we didn't really talk about this, but this is a similar program to a program that we have at Will Rogers, which is Web, Where Everybody Belongs. Link Crew helps with that transition from 8th grade to 9th grade. And our junior and seniors in high schools that have this program are paired up with freshmen, around, I think it's about 10 students per two upper gradesmen. And they follow them through their freshman year to help them in that transition. And exploring the different clubs. If students have a specific club that they would like and they don't see it at their school, they can always turn to their counselor or a teacher and let them know that they're interested in creating a club. And if they have an advisor and enough people, they can create their own club. And volunteer to help organize school activities, participate in different things that are on campus, and attending activities can all make their high school experience more enriching, make them feel more a part of the school, and in turn, they'll do better in school. Ms. Poirier, Mr. Kikau, did you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, just one thing. So starting this year, we have this program on campus called IYT, Improve Your Tomorrow. And it's been gathering a lot of interest from students. They do a lot of cool things on campus. They help kids with tutoring. They help them, over the summer do like fun workshops. They help students who are interested in going to college, giving them advice. Coaching them through things. So I know that's new on our campus, but we've been gathering a lot of interest from students. So that's something new that we're offering in addition to some of these things that Ms. Allenbaugh had mentioned.
Yeah, I got to say, IYT Improve Your Tomorrow is a great program. We have it at Will Rogers as well. Yeah. And it's a great way for students of color to get connected to school and help them through high school and middle school.
I would say Del Campo is a fairly traditional sports school. A lot of our kids play sports, but we also have a very, very active student government. Our CTE programs and our ROTC programs are really engaged. We have IYT, Link Crew, all kinds of clubs. It's just really important for kids to feel connected. And I think one of the things that is really different in school relative to middle school is it is much more of a community where things are happening in the evening. There are kids practicing sports. Like right now, there are probably 500 students and parents on our campus constructing our homecoming hallways. Like I think it's very hard to think of the equivalent thing that would happen at a middle school to something like that. So I just think it's going to be a shift. If you're new to being a parent of a high schooler, that's a big shift, is the idea that your child is in this community and exploring all kinds of interesting things at your school. So I think we go into more detail about some of these things in the next slides though, right, Ms. Allenbaugh?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Thank you. So going on, yeah. So this is an example of different clubs that we have and that we could have at high school. And each year the clubs change. We might have some consistency in some clubs, but they change periodically throughout the years. Ms. Poirier, Mr. Kikau, would you like to talk about some of the clubs that you guys currently have at your site?
Yeah, sure. So some of the clubs that we offer are on here. There's, a yearbook club, there's a chess club, there is an anime club. I know that we have a video game club that just started up. There's like a mental health club, which is kind of cool. They, meet every once in a while and, just have like an open discussion of mental health and the importance of, that coming back to a traditional school after going distance learning for a whole year. So that's a new club this year. I know that they want to like eventually launch a school website where kids can have access to because I know that, the clubs can only meet certain times a day and certain times a week, but they want to have that website access available, 24/7 for students who need extra support. So yeah, those are some of the clubs that we offer. I'm sure that there are a lot more that I'm missing, but those tend to be the ones that I mentioned, tend to be the more popular ones.
So Del Campo currently has 30 clubs. So this list represents a lot of what we have, but we have additional clubs to meet very specific needs. So I really think there's probably a club out there for everyone. And as Ms. Allenbaugh said, if a student has an interest in a club, and if there's 5 or 6 like anime clubs at high school started because students were interested in having anime clubs. And they found a teacher who was willing to be the advisor, and they elected a president and took notes and became a club. So really, I think it can change every single year, but we have one of the clubs we have is a mock trial club. So that's pretty cool because we've been pretty successful with our mock trial in the past, pre-COVID times. I think mock trial got put on hiatus last year when we were all in distance learning. So it'll be exciting to see that come back to life in the spring.
Thank you. On the next slide, I think we're going to be talking about sports. Yeah, this is, we always have a large group of students that are very interested in this different sports, and it does change a little bit based on what school we're attending. But overall, this is, I think, a pretty up-to-date and accurate list of all the different sports that we have available at San Juan Unified School District. One of the most important pieces to this slide that I want students to know about is the minimum overall grade point average. It's a C average, and students who are interested in sports for their freshman year can be waitlisted based on the school, their previous site. So if an 8th grader is earning less than a 2.0 their 8th grade year, they can be on a sport, but they could be waitlisted, and that means that they wouldn't be able to play until their grade point average was high enough to be a C or higher. So that's something really important to know moving forward. Also, that does apply to cheerleading as well. And here are some other activities that students can be a part of. Student government, the student news. We talked about Link Crew. Yearbook is an activity that students can participate in. Some schools have community service. Del Campo has community service, as well as Casa Roble. Others high schools probably have that as well. There's community service as a class at Del Campo. Mr. Kikau, does San Juan High School have community service as a class?
We do not offer community service as a class, no.
Okay, all right. And then there's, like we were talking about earlier, clubs, ROTC. These are all great ways to get involved in school. And on the next slide, we're talking about ROTC. Ms. Poirier, would you like to talk about this? We might be having some technical issues.
I'm sorry. I just had a call come through from our student government teacher. So Air Force Junior ROTC is available at Casa Roble and Del Campo. It is sponsored by the Air Force, but there is no, if you do ROTC in college, there is an obligation to join the military. That is not true at the high school level. Students can participate in all 4 years, 9th through 12th grade, or they could take it once and never take it again.
Nobody's seen any officers yet. That doesn't mean they're not here, but yeah, if we can make a check.
It sounds like there's some other stuff going on right over there.
So students study military history, exploration of space, principles of flight. They learn military customs, basic drill and leadership and teamwork. They do outside community service. They go on field trips. They fly on some of those field. So it's pretty cool. ROTC members can get college scholarships. So it's a neat program for students. If you have a child who might be interested in the military, it is certainly a really good way for them to have a much stronger understanding of what their obligations would be were they to join the military before they actually make any kind of commitment. So I would say if you have a student who's thinking they might want to join the military or go to one of the academies, you might want to consider looking at Del Campo or Casa Robles program, because they would learn a lot about what they would be committing to if they were to decide to join the military after high school. Mm-hmm. But once again, it is not obligatory. They don't have to join the military.
Yeah. And it's also a great way to stay structured all the way through high school, and being paired up with a great group of students all the way through 4 years, and it helps you to get into college. So it's a great program for students that might like that structure or do better with that structure. And if they're not interested in the military, they don't have to go into the military. But if they are, this will help them. So moving on to the next slide, we are going to talk a little bit about going on to college.
Yeah, so high school is right around the corner. And as you know, high school is going to just fly by, and before you know it, you'll be on to the next phase of life. And so one of the really cool things that our district does is we're really focused on college and career readiness, and for students to be prepared for life after high school. And so we just wanted to share that there are many different options and roads to take to get to college. And so on this slide, it shows you different schooling systems. So we have community colleges or junior colleges, and then four-year universities such as the California State University System, the CSUs, or the University of California, the UCs. And there are also private universities. So this gives you an example of some of the schools that are local to our area. So like American River College, Sierra College, Folsom, or Sac City are some of the community colleges in our area. And then one of our local right here in Sacramento is Sacramento State. And I'm sure there's a lot of Sac State alumni here too. And we have UC Davis, UC Berkeley, lots of UC options down in the LA region as well. And then we have private universities like Chapman, Golden Gate. So different universities are going to have different requirements in order to be admitted. So previously, universities would require entrance exams like the ACT or the SATs. So for the community colleges, the CSUs and the UCs, there are no entrance exams required at this time. Some private universities are still requiring entrance exams. And then this gives you some ideas of some of the degrees that can be offered, such as with the junior colleges, our associate degrees or vocational certificates. American River College has an automotive program where students can get a vocational certificate and be able to get a job after completing that program. The CSUs and UCs typically offer bachelor's and master's programs, and some do offer doctoral programs as well. And the same goes for private universities. So if you look at the cost for fees and tuition, it ranges based on the type of system that you would be interested in. One thing to point out is that sometimes you look at these numbers and it can be a little overwhelming, but there are lots of options in order to get to college and pay for college, such as completing a FAFSA for financial aid assistance, getting grants or financial aid and scholarships. And so that can help pay for some of the tuition for school. One of the really cool things with the junior colleges, the community colleges right now, if you are a first-time college student, your tuition is actually waived. And so there is no fee to attend a community college. So we can move on to the next slide. And so this is a summary of the admission requirements for the California State, the CSU, and the University of California UC systems. And so one thing that Ms. Allenbaugh mentioned at the beginning with our A through G graduation requirements for high school, what they did is they actually really made sure that those our high school graduation requirements align with admission requirements for the CSUs and UCs. So by completing your graduation requirements, it's going to help you be prepared for college and be prepared for the rigor of college as well. So it helps with the admission piece of it.
Oh, excuse me, Ms. Bermudez, I just wanted to talk about the grades. So in order to be eligible to go to college straight from high school, the student would be needing to earn C's or better in all of these classes.
Yeah, and you mentioned that for passing grades, it's different in high school, but in order to be eligible to meet those admission requirements for these systems, yes, you would need to earn the C grades. And I know we had some questions come up in terms of different colleges or majors, and we can talk about that towards the end as well. And I know there's some questions about applying for scholarships, and that's stuff that you will be doing in high school. So you will be meeting with your high school counselor to go through those A through G requirements. And we talked a little bit about Naviance earlier. And so your high school counselor will actually meet with students to make sure they're fulfilling all of those requirements and they're building their course plan so that they're completing the credit requirements for graduation and being prepared for high or college admissions. And then you'll begin working on college applications and scholarships, applying for scholarships and applying for financial aid in high school as well.
And talking about that too, know that the Naviance program that we were talking about earlier will help address those things. So there's a whole section when your student goes into high school, they'll be able to explore different colleges, different careers, as well as they'll be able to explore different scholarships available through the Naviance program. So
and for requesting letters of recommendation, and I know some schools will do that directly too, but all of that will be built into Naviance. So it's an all kind of inclusive program.
Yeah. So moving on to the next slide, talking about open enrollment. Why would we open enroll? First, I want to talk about what a resident school is. If somebody wanted to open enroll to a different school, we would need to know what our high school resident school is, and that's based on your home address. And I always like to use Will Rogers as an example. Will Rogers is right across the street from Del Campo High School. But if I lived at Will Rogers Middle School, my resident school would be San Juan High School. And so just because I could easily walk across the street to Del Campo, that's not where the borders lie for my resident high school. So one way to find out where your student would be attending for high school is to go to San Juan's website, www.sanjuan.edu, and in the search engine, type in school site locator, and then it will pop up and you can just type in your address and it will tell you where your student is, where their resident school will be, and their current resident school. And that will let you know if that is the school that you wanted your student to attend, or if you wanted to open enroll. And if you wanted to open enroll to a different school, if you could go to, oh, thank you. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay. Know that it's open enrollment is based on a lottery, and it's not first come, first serve. The time frame for open enrollment is coming up in December. It's from December 6th through January 21st. And if you open enroll on the very last day at 5 p.m., you still have a chance to have your student go to the school site that you're requesting. It's really based on is there room at that particular school. It's also based on special programs as well. If the school is expecting so many students that are coming in from the resident school site and there's not a lot of room, then your student who would like to open enroll will be placed on a wait list. And so the student could still possibly get in, but they would have to wait until the site opened up for that particular school. Also, it's based on the special programs. Like if I were my student was in special ed, and there's an opening at Del Campo, but there's no openings for special ed at Del Campo, my student might be placed on a wait list. So things to think about. On the next slide, it just goes into some particulars for open enrollment. Knowing that I've already addressed the space based on any physical or special programs, families must go online to fill out the application for open enrollment. And it's not first come, first serve. It's just a lottery. And priority is given based on special circumstances, programs. So one example would be if a student really was interested in Civitas at Rio Americano. Civitas is a program that is community service-based and governmental-based program. It's been there for a really long time. And if a student wanted to go into that program, then when they're filling out the open enrollment application, they would let them know that's where they would want to go because of that specialized program. There's no other program like it at other high schools. Also, if their siblings are currently going to a specific high school, so if a student was attending Will Rogers and their resident school was San Juan High School or Del Campo, but their siblings are going to Mariloma, they would open enroll and fill out my sister and brother are attending Mariloma, and because of transportation issues, my family needs to go to Mariloma, things like that. And also if there's an employee that's works at San Juan Unified School District, then they might be given priority based on where they're working as well. And the next slide.
Thank you, Victoria. Before we get into this slide and I hand it off to our parent family support ambassador, Kimber Rice, I just wanted to add a couple other additional points about open enrollment. So the San Juan Central Enrollment Team Department, around this time, they typically send out letters to parents or guardians of 8th grade students to inform you what your resident school for high school is based on the address that is on file with the district. So if there's any specific questions about your high school, resident school, you can contact San Juan Central Enrollment at 916-726-5826, or also via email at enrollment@sanjuan.edu. All right, and next I'm going to hand off to this part of the presentation to Kimber Rice, who is one of our parent family support ambassadors in the Family and Community Engagement Department. She's going to share some helpful tips for families that have students with IEPs and how to support that transition into high school. Kimber, take it away.
Thank you, Luis. Yeah, I'm also a parent of a child receiving services who's now a freshman. So I've done this transition and I understand the different layers and questions that families may have. I'm also the secretary for the Community Advisory Committee for Special Education this year. So I'm not a special education staff, but I'm here to help you navigate the process. So as we transition from the discussion around open enrollment, I wanted to specifically call out, like Ms. Allenbaugh mentioned, that there may not be programs at all sites, so that is something to consider for enrollment. But I do want to say before, as a family member that also heard this before, I kind of had a brief moment of panic, like, oh, I have to figure out what school has what program. It's really more specific for schools, like if your student needs a specific program for emotional disturbance or behavioral supports or life skills classes, a very specific program. Other than that, like most special ed services can be provided at all of our high schools. We have resource specialists and special education teachers with credentials at all sites, speech therapists that move around, adapted physical education, those kinds of things. So it really is more for specialized programs. However, we do encourage you, if you're looking at open enrollment and you're looking at a specific school site you have in mind, please, 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 please reach out to your case managers or your program specialists that you currently have who run your IEP meetings with you. And those people are the ones that you're going to want to ask, can all the services in my child's IEP be provided at the school site we're looking at before you do open enrollment? So please reach out to those people and contact them before December. And so on the next slide, I have some, or the next coming slides, I have some information to help you navigate that process. So in special education, communication is everything. So I do want to point out that in high school, so in middle school, your student may be in math and science with a special ed teacher, or they be in a program all day. It just depends on the services that they have. As they move into high school with electives and other opportunities, again, depending on what services or program your student is accessing, high school students may be in a variety of classes, and for one semester or another, they may not have any classes with their case manager. So it just kind of depends. So this is just something to have in the back of your mind, that you'll want to learn who to communicate with and how. So this next slide, I've laid out for you the right questions to ask. So always, always, always start with the classroom teacher. So if there's an issue, please reach out to the teacher where the issue is most directly related. So if there's attendance issues in art third period, then please contact that teacher directly and ask questions and find out what's going on. I do find it helpful to copy your case manager on that email. So the case manager is the special education teacher that leads your IEP teams and manages the services at the site. They may be one and the same. So again, at high school, if you have different, you have all these different players involved. You have classroom teachers and you're moving around for electives. And so if you don't know who your case manager is, just ask, but it's whoever's contacting you about your IEP generally. And then from there, once you've reached out to them, you can also reach out to service providers. So if your student is receiving speech therapy or has adaptive physical education, then you can reach out to those people directly and ask questions regarding those services as well. Copying, again, your case manager is always, always helpful to help bring in the loop, just because there's all these people involved in the team. Also, at your school site, you can reach out to your child's counselor or the school psychologist, and they work directly with your case manager when it comes to scheduling or other services and the IEP document. So that is another person on the school site you can reach out to. And then if you're having trouble problem solving or not knowing quite who to communicate with, you can always, migrate up to the vice principal and the principal, the site administrators. And then there's a program specialist at the special education department that oversees kind of regionally programs at various schools. So that would be the next person in the special education department that you could reach out to if you need to problem solve. And then of course, the special education administrators would be the assistant special ed and the director. And then other things related that often come up that families ask about around special education services are transportation. So if you have transportation in your IEP, You can also connect with your case manager about the partnership between the special education department and the transportation department. They are two different departments. So now one more person to communicate with. So there are times where you as a family might need to directly communicate with the transportation department. But again, that's if it's in your IEP. So start with special ed, move to transportation. And then similarly, nutrition services, if you have food-related concerns, significant allergies, things like that, then you can communicate directly with nutrition services. And if there's another layer of supports that you're needing, the multicultural education department has resources as well. So big picture, kind of lots of people to communicate with, but always start with the case manager and classroom teacher, and then work your way down from there. So hopefully that gives you a heads up on just communication is key. So next slide. So I just wanted to point out the special education website is highlighted at the top there, or you can just go to the district website and do the search engine and type in special education. I just want to point out a few things here to help you on your transition. So the special ed department has family check-in meetings twice a month. So we have one coming up on Thursday, that's tomorrow morning. And again, at the end of November or mid-November. So these are opportunities to ask questions in an open forum, and the special education administration is there. So great place to just ask questions. We also have the community advisory committee, another venue to ask questions and get information. But more importantly, at the bottom, you'll see it says contacts with an arrow. If you keep scrolling down on the special education website, you will find a list of all the program specialists and the school sites they serve. So if you're not sure who your program specialist is, please go to this website, look for your school site listed under one of the program specialists, and that will be your main point of contact if you don't know where to start or who your case manager is, or what high school you might be going to. So that's a great place to find a contact as well. And then on the left, there's also, I've highlighted the workability program is something that you'll be looking at in high school, as well as some parent workshops to help you out. So special education website is a great wealth of information if your child has an IEP. Next slide. And then just around transition planning. So as your child moves into high school and they have an IEP, you will also have a transition plan that is now added into your IEP when your child, by the time they turn 16. And in this plan, it addresses employment, further education, so college career readiness, and daily living skills, if those are things not currently addressed in the IEP. So now we're looking for those transitional services for our students who may be continuing on after high school to continue to receive services through the age of 22. But all students with IEPs have access to workability supports through high school. So this is just a great way where they tie in maybe a small goal about how they're adding in that college and career readiness piece, and who's doing that. So I've just kind of included some general resources here. Understood.org is a great just general resource about IEPs and special education. And then thinkcollege.net is a little bit like Naviance. It's not a paid program. It's not specific with school sites, but it has college searches and it has training information about disability services as you kind of move through high school and you're thinking about that next step. So that's a great resource as well. And then for our students with IEPs receiving special education services who are, you're in a life skills program or something and you're moving towards adulthood. So after the high school years, you'll still be needing services and will stay receiving those services through the age of 22. California Transition Alliance is an excellent resource. I highly encourage you to check it out if your child is receiving regional services through the Ultra Regional Center, and it explains kind of what the transition planning looks like and what questions to think about as you move into high school and then moving towards the end of high school. So it's just kind of good information to be thinking ahead. So this is part of the high school transition experience also. And then my last thing for you is I just have a very simple communication tool that I recommend using every year. It's just a great, simple way to share a little bit of information about your student. This one it's a student snapshot. So ideally, this is something, if your student has not been involved in it before, this is a great way for them to really be involved in the process, for you to sit down and find out from them what their strengths are. So anyway, so you can fill out this student snapshot or make your own based off of these points, and then share that with your case manager at the new site, and just gives them a little bit of information about your student right off the bat. So just a helpful communication tool. That's it.
Ms. Rice, thank you so much. We appreciate all your information. We want to talk about information nights right now. Spartans San Juan High School is going to have their information night coming up on Thursday, December 2nd. Mr. Kikau, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, so this is where we have an opportunity to open up what I've been talking to all the families that are interested in coming, and seeing it in person. This event, as the flyer says there, it'll be on the 2nd of December, starting at 5 o'clock, and then we'll be starting out in the large gym and then ending with a tour of the campus, and possibly have you guys see firsthand what I mentioned with our pathways, and that'll be an opportunity for families to meet with me, the other counselors, teachers, admin, and if they have any questions about what we offer specifically, that would be a great opportunity to address any questions. And I'll also put my information, my email, here in the chat if anyone wants to reach out, and if they have any more questions, they can contact me that way.
Thank you, Mr. Kikau. We do have a link here that you can access to see all of the information nights that are listed. Ms. Poirier, would you like to speak to Del Campo's information night?
Del Campo had our information night last Wednesday, but the video of it was, through this week, actually, we're supposed to be holding such events via Zoom. So it was a Zoom event, and we did record it and put it on our website, so you can see it, and you're welcome to call the school or email one of us and get more information if you missed that.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to our next slide. I believe we're at our questions now. Ms. Bermudez, would you like to address the myriad of questions that I know I've seen throughout the presentation?
Yeah, and a lot of them were answered in the chat or as we went through the presentation with some of the slides, but there were a couple that I made a note of, so in case other people had questions about it. And a lot of them were around the graduation requirements. And a question actually just popped up about open enrollment. So if a student or a child resides in a neighborhood where, like, say Encina is your residence school, that is the school that you would be enrolled in for high school. If you wanted to go to a different high school, that would be through open enrollment. And so that was addressed earlier as well. And so the open enrollment link was actually posted in this presentation that will be shared. Oh, thank you, Luis. Just shared it in the chat. And so you can click on open enrollment for more information for how to go through the open enrollment application and when that will be available for families. Another question that came up was regarding the traditional and the block credit requirements. So some people were asking why there are different credit requirements for traditional versus a block. Like traditional is 220 and block is 280. So asking for one, are block classes harder to graduate, and why are there more credits for block?
It's not really that block schools are harder to graduate. Students have the ability to earn many more units overall. There are not specific classes that they have to take. There's not more specific classes, right? Like, so that list of required classes is exactly the same. What the balance of that from the 220 to the 280 is actually all elective classes. So they can choose to take a whole lot of other options. And the reason that we actually have more graduation requirements is that, high school is a 4-year endeavor. If we had 220 credits, the kids would be graduating at the end of their 3rd year of high school without doing any extra coursework. They could actually fail classes and graduate at the end of their junior year, because students are able just to earn so many more classes over time. So that actually wouldn't actually meet the legal requirements for high school if we were to get kids through at the end of their junior year without them doing anything extra.
Thank you. Other questions that came up regarding A through G. A question was about VAPA or CTE. And so there are 10 credits that are required in that category, but you can choose to take extra electives that would fall under visual performing arts. Or as mentioned, there are other academic electives that you can take, such as other math or science classes as well. So there are 10 credits that are required under visual performing arts or CTE, but you can choose to take other electives that may fall under that area as well.
Yeah, and a good example is if a student was interested in drawing, they could take a beginning drawing class and earn the 10 credits that are required, and then continue taking drawing classes throughout their high school career.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Another question came up in regards to being prepared for college. So there were 2 questions regarding this. One was specific about a certain field such as science. And so I answered that in the chat regarding STEM fields. One thing I will mention is that in the A3 requirements, it is required that you take 3 years of math and 3 years of science. That is required to graduate. However, I always encourage students to take additional math and science classes. I worked at the California State University, Sacramento campus. And so working there, if you are interested in any STEM field or even going to college, I always encourage students to take additional math and science classes in order to be better prepared, especially for a STEM related field. And so those additional classes would also count as electives. And then one other question was in regards to IB, AP, and honors classes and how those equate to college. And that was also addressed in terms of AP classes. There is an exam that you can take at the end of your, in the spring semester. If you pass that exam, it can earn you additional college credits. And I don't know if anybody can speak to IB classes as well, if anybody has information on those. I think there is an IP exam I'm sorry, an IB exam after courses.
Yeah, and they earn college credit too.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So
often IB students have completed their freshman year.
Okay. Oh yeah, going into college.
Going into college, yeah.
So I think that answered most of the general questions. If we did not get to a specific question, you can put it in the chat, or feel free to email one of us directly and we can answer any specific questions via chat or as we move into the breakout rooms.
Thank you so much, Rachel. So we're winding down to the last 5 minutes of today's workshop. Lots of great information, many great questions, and it's just exciting to, to get this interaction, and lots of families excited about transitioning their student into high school. So to finish off the presentation, the main speakers will stay here in the main room. We are also going to have breakout rooms for our 4-parent family support ambassadors from our department. We have representatives from El Camino, Encina, Mesa Verde, and Kimber will be helping us with central enrollment / SPED. So I'm gonna pop up a message on your screen. If you have any questions about any of those specific schools, please select the breakout room that you would like to attend to finish off the night. I'm gonna ask our parent ambassadors if you could select your school and click on join. And then we'll spend the last few minutes there answering questions. For those of you that don't have questions, thank you again for joining us. We have one last slide here where we have an exit survey. So as you exit today's meeting, please take a moment to fill out the survey. There's two ways to fill out the survey, either by scanning the QR code or clicking on the link and typing it into your web browser. Your input and feedback helps us greatly to kind of find out about your experience and learn about ways that we can improve this next year. So thank you all for your time, and thank you for all the presenters and speakers for giving up your evening to share this really great information. And to our parents, guardians, caregivers, family members here supporting, thank you for being proactive in your students' education and starting to think about high school now. It's certainly gonna go a long way, and we appreciate your partnership in helping your student be successful.